So for me, being intentional in marriage, especially in our marriage, means doing it on purpose, like having a genuine plan for what it is that you want in your marriage, who you want to be, how you want that marriage to look, how you want to show up, and doing all of that stuff like on purpose. And the best way for me to be able to look at that is just realizing really just how we started in our marriage. Like, for example, I knew that very early on, like in the beginning of matter of fact, in the beginning of us just meeting each other and getting to know you, I realized that you really made me want to be better. And that was the first sign of me realizing that I wanted you in my life long term, because I knew that having you a part of my life would encourage me to be better. It would get me out of my comfort zone, and it would put me in a place to where I would have to level up. So the intent started in not just us meeting, but after I got to know you, I saw longevity in us being together, and I knew that having you there gave me more of a sense of direction. So it wasn't just about the short-term benefit. It was more so about the long-term payoff over what we could become. And knowing that that was going to come with a whole lot of stuff between where we were in the beginning and where we ultimately were going to end up. And so when I think about like being intentional in marriage, it's like when we're together, how do we benefit each other in a way to where it expands who we are individually and expands us together?
Right.
I think about it from a standpoint of me knowing that having you a part of my life and me giving so much of myself to you, it makes both of us better. And knowing that I want to be an asset in your life. Like, I want to be somebody who can support you, show up for you, and be able to be somebody who literally adds value to you and everything that you are in the direction that you're growing in, and being a part of that in a meaningful way. Like, I don't want to just casually take up space. And like, you've been that same thing for me.
Absolutely.
And so I think about that from the standpoint of how I love you, how I support you, making sure that I'm asking you the right questions to be able to figure out how I can be a better husband for you. And those are the things to me that consist of being intentional. Is getting to know each other in the most vulnerable ways. Is learning more about each other so that way we know how to be able to address each other in certain situations, and being able to show up for each other the way that we need it based off of the nature of whatever the situation is. And to me, it's a form of intimacy. You know what I mean? It's a level of closeness, or creates a level of closeness that nobody else can experience.
Right.
And saying a whole lot, really. Like, that's kind of how I envision intimacy and intentionality, and how it leads to intimacy.
Right. Good answer. Yeah, that was good. I know I feel like us saying intentional so much is so recent. And I think about like, what words were we using before we used intentional about our marriage?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even think like intentional wasn't the word. I think it was just extremely interested. Like, you know what I mean? I was just extremely interested in who you were, where you came from, what you were about. And I wanted to contribute to who you were. Like, and that's literally it.
Yeah.
And it obviously intentional. Like, that's really what it is too. You know, being intentional about you and how I can help you grow, how I can, you know, contribute to your life and whatever your goals are. So yeah, it just made me think of that, because I know, again, intentional is like a more recent word we've been using about things. So yeah.
Yeah, especially like this past, 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I'm like, dang, we say that word a lot.
I think it really kind of came back, you know, like into us reading more, and especially when we started getting into like Outwitting the Devil and stuff like that by Napoleon Hill and other books, you know, that we've read together. But I think it was the fact that the more we started becoming more intentional in certain areas of our lives, the more we started to realize, really, unfortunately, how unintentional most people are about most things. And it was like becoming more aware of that made us more aware of why and how we wanted to be that much more on purpose about everything that we applied ourselves to that was important to us, from our marriage to our fitness to how we show up for baby girl to all of the things, and not wanting to be average by no means, and wanting to actually think and apply real effort and do all of these things that would make our, not just our marriage, but everything that was connected to us above what was typical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I really, truth be told, I feel like we were just trying to beat average away with a stick. You know what I mean? Like, we were just trying to get as far away from average as possible.
I think
in every way.
We saw a lot of what we didn't want and not enough of what we did want. So we had to figure out how to create what we did want, you know, for us, like what that looked like on an individual level, how that looked as a wife, as a mom, as a husband, as a father, as business owners, as podcasters. Like, we had to figure out what that actually looked like for us, because we didn't see it ever.
Yeah.
So I think like even that took a level of courage. You know what I'm saying? Like, you trying to create something you've never seen before. You've never had that example. Like, we kind of ballsy.
That's the way to put it. That's for sure.
For real. Like, that's what it makes me think about.
Yeah. And I know that in us doing all of that, you know, it contributed so much to so much of who we are, you know, and I feel like we had been like that already to a degree earlier in our marriage and us being together. But really, like, as of recently, we've really started to be that much more intentional about our commitments and the things that we really want to give ourselves to. And the more I think about that, I think about, you know, how we've been talking about this being like our quantum leap year of doing things and becoming so much more and doing things on such a higher level and different things like that. Right. And you can only do that through intention. And that's really just dialing back to the point of realizing that anything that we apply ourselves to, we want to be able to do it with real focused effort. And I think that's really what intentionality is in and of itself.
Yeah, I think like with that, you need a lot of clarity of what you actually want. Like, we want a happy, healthy marriage forever.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure like we're working in that direction. So we're going to be intentional about that. We want to make sure baby girl has a childhood that she does not have to heal from. So we're very intentional about how we raise her, how we parent her. We want to make sure we're physically fit because we just don't want to be fat. And that's just honest. So we're very intentional about that, you know, so knowing what you actually want out of life and having that clarity so you can have a direction of where you need to be intentional. Because I don't think everything deserves to be intentional, like for you to be intentional about. Like, not everything deserves your attention. Yeah. So you gotta know what your priorities are and what direction you want to go in, so you can apply intention in that area.
And that's where values come in, you know, into play.
Absolutely.
Because when you know what your values are, you're able to apply that focused effort towards those priorities of the things that you value in that moment, because the values change. Like, it could be there's been points in our lives where fitness was peak priority, or where just our marriage peak priority, or taking care of baby girl peak priority. And in those moments where we applied the most intentionality, it was based off of what was most important to us in those seasons. And we had to let some things, you know, slide through the cracks, so to say, because right now this is what's most important. But the best thing about that, though, was every time we had those changes in seasons, we were on the same page about it. It wasn't like, all right, you finna start prioritizing this and I'm prioritizing that, and then there's no communication about it, and then this void starts being created because we move in two totally different directions because we've never talked about what's going on. None of that stuff ever happened. It was like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what's going on right now. We need to take care of this together. And we like, all right, bet. We finna take care of this thing here. We hop on that thing together. We both get extremely intentional about it. And us doing that together allows us to be able to navigate certain situations, goals, circumstances, whatever the case may be, faster because we're doing it together.
Right.
And then when we get ready to pivot, we pivoting together because like we all right. Now that thing's taken care of, now we can focus our attention on somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
That's
man.
really how we flow. We've been flowing like that for years.
Always have.
Yeah.
And it's never been one of those things where we've had to like talk about it in detail, but we've operated like that because we've always been a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really worked out in our favor.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about that is even in us doing that, we were also very present and on purpose about how we showed up for each other in those moments and realizing that there are situations and things that we've had to face before in our marriage to where, again, you had to be the lead on that. And I'm like, all right, baby, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm going to do this thing over here. I'm going to support you where I can. I'm going to hold down the areas where I am strong at, but like you lead this. And then areas where I'm like, all right, babe, I got this. You know, I'm going to figure this thing out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is all I need from you. Like, we good. And we'll navigate that thing the best way possible. But we've done that with such, I don't know, man, like we've done that in just such a, I ain't gonna say it was unintentional, but like just unconscious way. It's just like we've just somehow figured out that doing things in that way has just, like, how could it not work out to our benefit?
I think in this moment, so I'm gonna talk through this thought. All right.
Right.
So don't judge me, y'all. I'm gonna talk through this thought. But I think what's dope about what you just said is there has never been a power trip in our relationship.
That's real.
There's never been a moment where you've been like, well, I'm the man, I got to do this, or I got to feel like, well, I was independent before you, so I got to do it this way. It's never been a power trip.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to be together, we're a team. So it's never been like, okay, do it my way or you do it your way. No, let's figure out a way we can do it together. Let's mix it up. Let's add some Tron and add some Adoria together, and we can make this thing look how it needs to look for us. You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
And I think like that in itself is dope. And I think that's where maybe some relationships are having issues, is because it's more of a power. What is it called? Power struggle? Power? What am I trying to say? Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Power
but,
trip.
you know,
We're just going to say power trip.
We know what you mean.
Yeah. So, and I think that's more so what it is. And not, no one is saying, hey, like, let's just work through this together. Let's make it a us thing and not a do it my way thing or do it your way thing. You know what I'm saying?
What's interesting is I think I was talking to somebody about this either today, yesterday, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I was telling them, I was like, man, that's why like we don't argue. I'm like, man, when we had these moments where we trying to figure things out, there's no fight for domination over who's gonna win and whose idea we have to take or anything like that. Like, we assess the issue, you know, the situation or the issue, whatever the case may be. We talk through it, and if we feel like, you know, your approach is the best one, we'll take it. If my approach it seems like the best, we'll take it. If we don't really know, honestly, we'll just talk that thing through and we'll figure out a direction to go together.
Right.
And if we can't come to terms with it, sometimes we'll just pick a route.
Yeah.
You know, you'll just be like, all right, babe, we'll go your way. Or I'll be like, all right, we'll just do your thing. And if it work out, great. And then if not, oh, well, at least we went about it together.
Yeah.
And now when we pivot together, we take another route. And like I was telling them, I was like, the dope thing about that is when you have that type of harmony and intentionality and that connectedness in your marriage, even when we make the wrong decision because of, be it one of our ideas or thought processes or beliefs or whatever the case may be, if we can still say like, I forget it, I'm going to go with you. Mm-hmm. As long as we're together, when we pivot and have to change directions, we can make that decision faster because we're together. But if we're divided and we're only going this way because I said this is what it's going to be, or you says this is what it's going to be, and there's division there, it takes way longer for us to pivot and do something different because we didn't even move in that first direction together.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, all right, well, I don't want you to be right. So now I got to figure out another thing to do. And you like, well, you didn't listen to me last time.
So childish.
You know what I'm saying? It just becomes this whole ridiculous thing. And it takes way longer to make the next decision and to get out of the thing.
Yeah.
And that really circles right back to our intentionality. It's the fact that I would much rather be moving in the same direction in harmony with my wife, with us together, than struggling to be right, or whatever the case may be. You know, of course, always depending on the circumstances, but it's always about us being together and prioritizing and being intentional about our connectedness and moving together.
Yeah.
Because there is no right direction for us to go or grow if we're doing it apart.
Right.
It's not. And that's not being intentional in our marriage, not for us.
Right.
If we have to divide and we can't be together because we're at odds.
Yeah. I think it's always just been important for us to find a solution. Like it never mattered who was right or who was wrong. It's like, what is the solution? What are we going to do? Because even if we do say we make the wrong decision together and we're moving in a direction, at least we moving. Yeah. At least we can learn from whatever that wrong decision is. And that way we can pivot together. You know, and that's a part of life, though. Like, you're not going to always make the right decision anyway. So it's all a part of the learning and growing process. And I think the fact that we've been so willing to make a decision and move, we've learned very quickly together.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's where the real benefit is.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it comes back to realizing why you're in the marriage, why you're with somebody who can be able to cover you in those moments and be with you in those situations, you know, to where things may not be going the best way.
Yeah.
Or even when things are going great, like you're still doing those things together. And at the end of all of it, you still have a chosen or a given direction that you've decided on together that you're still working toward, even if you got to take alternative routes and different ways, find different ways of getting there, whatever the case may be. But for us, the goal has always been to continue to love, stay connected, be in harmony, and grow together throughout life, period, regardless of what comes our way.
Yeah.
And prioritizing that has allowed us to be able to stay on the same track, period.
I think that's such a beautiful and peaceful place to be in, knowing that I have a husband who makes decisions based on us and not like selfish intent or like bad intentions or anything like that. Because I think like some people have it in the back of their mind that someone's plotting on them in the relationship. You know what I'm saying? So they're assuming something negative, like say somebody has a different idea and they think their idea is right. It's like, oh, well, you're trying to challenge me or you think you better than me. It's like, no. Like if you're thinking that about the person you're with, something is wrong and it's deeper than whatever that problem is.
That's real.
Because you should not be with somebody who you think has bad intentions for you and for the relationship in general. So it's a little deeper than whatever this little surface level problem is. You know what I'm saying?
And that's real, baby. Because like, and again, that go back to the point I was making earlier. It's like, I don't, like that stuff just doesn't matter to me. And when a lot of people are looking at it, like if they really take a moment to just step back, they might be able to realize, man, that for one, your partner, your spouse is there to support you and to lift you up and to be your greatest freaking cheerleader and hype man and whatever the case may be, regardless of the situation and the circumstance. And so why would you want to tear that person down or belittle them or make them feel less than for the sake of being right or trying to get your point across or anything like that? When, again, even if you have to go in a certain direction that may not seem like the best up front, if you're going about it together, you still win because you get to grow deeper in love in those moments, grow deeper in your connection because you get to realize, hey, you know what? Even when I may not be going the best way or thinking in the best terms, whatever, you know, my thinking is not at its peak or whatever. You still got me. Like you still got my back. Like you were still willing to go with me through this thing and let me try. And even though it may not have worked out, I know that I still got you. And if it does work out, you gave me the courage and the confidence to go for that thing regardless. So there's no losing when you go about it together. Mm-hmm. And that comes back to being intentional about the marriage and why it's important to be able to show up regardless of the situation and the circumstances, for better or for worse, right? Mm-hmm. You know, because that allows you to be able to maximize that superpower of growing together. And there really is no wrong or right decision. Mm-hmm. It's just a decision, and how you navigate those things together in a way to where it can be able to uplift the marriage and uplift the two people in it, as long as they're on teams and got each other's back. Like, that's really all it is at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
That's what I would call it. Like, that's being intentional. Mm-hmm. That's letting the person that you've decided to spend your life with know that I'm in this thing. Right. Like, I'm in this thing for the right reasons, because you make me better. We make each other better. We believe in each other, and we're here to give each other the best of what we have. Mm-hmm. And to keep doing that, like, day after day until the end. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, man, I think that's where we're going to drop it, unless you got anything else you want to add to it, baby.
That's good.
Cool. Well, family, if you guys have enjoyed this episode, please do let us know. Of course, always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you thought, what you felt about the episode. And until next time, family, my name is John Tron. This is my beautiful queen.
Adoria.
We are one dope couple. And until next time, family, peace and love.